Welcome into episode 47 of Happy Medium. Happy Saturday. I don't think I've recorded too many episodes on a Saturday. Usually doesn't feel like it, but uh, I'm back. Welcome back. Happy Saturday. Hope you all are enjoying this nice weather we've had recently. It's finally starting to cool down a little bit and not be so sticky and muggy hot outside. But yeah, thank you for coming back. I know it's been a couple weeks, I think, or a week. No, I think it's been a week since my last episode. Sorry, I've been losing track of time. I keep forgetting the last time I've actually been able to record. Actually, on that, I know it's been a little bit since I've been able to see myself. You guys have been able to see me on a pod recording. The last couple interviews I've done, obviously I've gotten audio, but the connection on both of those Zooms was not good when I was trying to record them. So the video kind of got washed, but the audio still remained. Obviously, if you have or even haven't gone back and listened to those, you should definitely do it. With Isaiah Rivera and Casey Standahar, go back to listen to those interviews. Really good conversations with both. But yeah, video didn't really turn out as I intended for both of those. It was very laggy. I restarted my computer this morning, so I hope this is good or at least better quality than it has been. So hopefully that can keep going for me in the future, or I may have to figure out some new avenues or platforms. But yeah, glad to be back. I know it's been like a little over a week, I think. I think I recorded on the 23rd, 24th of July. So, yeah, I was gonna record this week on maybe like Wednesday or something. Try to aim for that middle of the week spot, I feel like I usually try to aim for with these, but I wanted to talk about the trade deadline in the MLB season that happened this week. So I figured if I'm going to talk about the deadline, I should probably talk about it afterward and not, before it ends on Thursday. So that's why I'm recording today. Was a little busy. Yesterday was out of the house all day. Was out of the house like all day Thursday. So, yeah, finally have time to actually record one uh one of these for the first time in it seems like a while. So yeah, we can get into it. I'm trying to maybe aim for this to be like a 20-minute episode ish. I'm hoping. But if it goes over or at least by a little bit, we'll see. I just have to be out of the house later. So yeah, we can get into this trade deadline stuff. I want to talk about both sides of town, the Cubs and the Sox, not just one team or the other. Um, yeah, so trade deadline, always one of my personal favorite moments of the baseball season. Usually there's not a ton of action usually until that deadline day. I feel like there's every every now and then there might be a trade or two that happens. It's pretty prominent before that deadline day, but seems like most years a lot of the action happens when it's getting pretty close to that deadline hour. So um yeah, we can get started with the Sox. So little or pretty quiet deadline for the Sox. Um I I personally was a little surprised by that. I th I'm not gonna sit here and say that they should have traded more. Uh, but I thought that they at least could have traded more based on what, a lot of rumors were and people were saying and the national media and all that stuff. They traded outfielder Austin Slater to the Yankees. He is like a reserve outfielder, so they probably weren't going to get much for him anyway. They got a I think a single A starting pitcher, so you know could be a solid return, solid piece, at least more depth in your minor league rotation. So, eh, there's not really a lot to be said there. And then Adrian Hauser, who is I don't want to say their biggest trade chip, but was definitely up there based on how he'd been pitching this year. He was, for those who may be unfamiliar with his kind of path or story to the White Sox, he was a waiver claim, I believe, basically just picked up kind of off the street per se, and I think from the Texas Rangers system in May, I believe, and threw him into a game his first start, and he's done nothing but pitch, not like, pitch great, not just pitch, because obviously anyone can pitch, but pitch great. He had a legitimate case to be an all-star for the AL this year in July, but that went to Shane Smith instead. But I don't think that really matters. Hauser's pitched great. He pitched 11 starts at a 2.10 ERA. Really, really surprising given kind of who he's been throughout his career. Credit to the White Sox and their development pitching staff for being able to not just identify him but also work with him and get him to be pitching as probably as well as he has been pitching his entire big league career. So, despite his stats, you you given kind of who Hauser is, I had a feeling that the White Sox probably weren't going to get a lot for him. I know there were probably some people out there that are like, oh, he's got a 2.10 ERA. They should get like two top five or top 10 prospects in the minor league system for Adrian Hauser. Like that was not going to happen. They got I don't know if I said they traded him to Tampa Bay. I think Hauser's going to be pretty good in Tampa. I know Tampa's always kind of had this reputation for analytics heavy base, like really good approach to development and pitching lab. So, you know, I don't think he's going to slide into the top of their rotation certainly, but I think he can eat up innings for the Rays and hopefully kind of keep that trajectory and that, you know, sustained success that he had been going or that he had with the White Sox that was ongoing for those 11 starts, I believe. But yeah, they got infielder Curtis Med. I hope I said that last name right. I don't know if it's Mead or Med, but a former top 100 prospect, I believe, of Tampa Bay. He was a top like 3 or 4 prospect in their system at one time from Australia. Kind of a utility infielder-ish type to me. He looks like he's played second, third, short, even a little bit at first base too. I don't think he's gonna plug a hole at like third base right now for the White Sox. I think at least initially they'll probably use him kind of all over, see what fits best. If he's gonna play some third, some second. If Colson Montgomery is gonna play third, maybe they'll put him at they'll put Met at short for a game or two. I mean, you never know. It's just kind of more possible combinations and lineups and arrangements that Med can kind of help them with. If they need to spell someone for a day or someone goes on the injured list, I think he's a solid kind of utility bench bat for now. Maybe the offense can come around a little bit more because I think he was hitting in like the mid or high 220s with Tampa this year, and it probably wasn't that big of a sample size anyway. But you know, I'm sure that Chris Getz and his staff must have identified something or some things that Med could probably tap into a little bit more. I know Ryan Fuller, the White Sox, new hitting kind of guru, has certainly shown the ability to work with guys like Colson Montgomery or early this year in Arizona or mm, Miguel Vargas too. So you know, probably a solid like dice roll flyer type of type of trade. or at least with that trade return with him. Uh, they they also got two with right-handed pitchers in the minors. I think one of them at least will go to AAA, maybe maybe both, but two kind of other guys. I don't know how high their ceiling is per se, but it seems like they could certainly make it to the big leagues sooner rather than later, potentially, if they keep on pitching well down there. So more could be more bullpen help. Maybe they could stretch one of them into a starter. Who knows? But solid solid kind of flyers on guys who could likely impact the big league team maybe this year. At least with Met, it'll probably be immediately, but with the other two guys, Davitt and Peoples, who are the two pitchers, I think they could probably help the White Sox in some capacity, whether it's this year, next year, whenever. Always good to have more depth, I think. But then I, I want to talk about um, another player. So, you know, one guy who was probably expected to be moved, um, I'm sure some people were surprised he wasn't moved, was center fielder Luis Robert Jr. Um, that has at least the last couple years, Robert hasn't had the greatest of seasons. I know last year he was injured, I feel like a decent amount, and then this year the first 3 months he was really scuffling, and then in July he heated up pretty good. Um, but him having a club option for next year for $20 million, I believe. Some teams may have looked at him as like a 2 month rental and not wanted to pick up an option for $20 million when they don't know how Robert would factor into their long-term plans with that team, if it was the AL team, NL team, whoever it may have been. So the Sox probably just didn't get a ton of offers, at least offers that they felt were competitive to what they valued Robert at. It takes two teams to trade, right? One team may want a certain player, but they may not want to give up what the other team thinks that player is worth, right? So you know wasn't a trade wasn't able to come to fruition with Robert and the Sox and another team. Because I know there was some rumors like he might go to the Mets or the Phillies too, or the Padres. I know the Mets and the Phillies both ended up getting outfielders, so maybe that kind of took them out of the Robert. I don't want to say sweepstakes, but it took Robert out of their plans. So you know, not. I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing that the White Sox still have Robert on the team. I mean, he could still potentially like recoup some of his value, and despite him having a good month of July, his value obviously isn't very high right now anyway. I don't know how much lower or worse his value could get, truthfully, but still a guy who's gonna play center field for you, at least for the White Sox, presumably every day for the next 2 months of the year. I feel like now that they kept him, they're gonna have to pick up that option for $20 million next year, because I believe I read he's getting paid $15 million this year right now. So even if he's on the team next year, the payroll is really only going to increase in his salary by $5 million. So because I think they really only have him and Andrew Benintendi on the books for next year. So right now the payroll really shouldn't change much. You never know what can happen with cuts and all that stuff, but I feel like it kind of just decreases what they can actually get for him in the future. Whether I don't know if they're going to try to trade him this offseason or wait another year and try to trade him at next year's trade deadline in 2026. I don't know how much they're going to get for him next year, even if he ends up playing pretty well and recoups a little bit of his past form and value. I don't know, but you know, I guess I was a little surprised just given that I thought he would be traded for kind of anything, but at the same time, I guess it makes sense. Teams probably weren't going to value him a ton. The White Sox, you know, had a higher value and price tag on him than those said other teams would have or did. So it didn't end up working out and matching up to what both teams thought was equal value. So it is what it is. Um, and the White Sox have been playing better as a team, certainly over the last month or so. So, maybe Robert can help them avoid 100 losses on the year. I don't know. They're at 41 right now, which matches the infamous total that they had last year when they went 41 and 121. So, you know, maybe Robert can help them play a little bit better, or at least sustain and continue that positive momentum that they've been playing with for the last month or two. Um, Again, even if he gets traded, like I said, this off season or next trade deadline, I don't know when. I feel like it's got to be sometime, but I don't know how much they're gonna get for him. That's kind of why I thought they would just trade him now anyway, given that he would have had. I mean, he would have contractually had 2.5 years left of club control, but if a team didn't want to pick up that option for next year, then it would have just been 2 months of Robert, and then he would have became a free agent. So I can see it from both both sides, good and bad. So it is what it is. Yeah. So I want to transition now to the Cubs. You know, more of a it was a pretty surprising deadline for both teams, I'd say. I obviously just got into the White Sox. I thought they could have traded more, but they didn't. I thought the Cubs could have added more. I thought they would have added more, given that how they've been playing this year and the fact that their best, arguably their best player, Kyle Tucker, is a free agent after this year. They're not guaranteed to have him, so why not try to maximize that window for the next 2 or 3 months and go all in? But they kind of went half in, if that makes sense. Like they got a utility infielder who's solid. He's got a solid like offensive numbers this year, but and Castro from the Twins, but he's certainly not gonna put the Cubs over the top. I don't even think he's gonna play every day. Like he's a solid utility bench guy. Like, okay. And then they also got uh, Michael Soroka from the Nationals, who used to pitch for the White Sox last year. They got Andrew Kittredge from the Baltimore Orioles, and then they got Taylor Rogers from the Pirates, I believe. So three bullpen arms and one utility infielder for a team that I'm sure has legitimate like World Series aspirations, or at least aspirations of going deep in the playoffs this year in the NL. Like I don't really get it, like what their strategy was. Like I mean, maybe it was one of those situations, kind of like Robert I mentioned with the White Sox, where deals or offers just didn't kind of line up with what teams were expecting or hoping for some of their like rental players or even players that had control after this year too. Like it was well documented that the Cubs need a starting pitcher, but they didn't get one. Like I mean, I know they said Soroka is going to start Monday, I believe, for them in a couple days, but like he's not a starter, so I don't I don't know what Jed Hoyer was really. I don't say what was he thinking, but like why why didn't he do more? That's kind of my opinion with the Cubs. Like I know obviously one of the best teams in the MLB right now, and I know Jed Hoyer just got extended last week too, so maybe that kind of took a little pressure off of him to not feel like he has to save his job. I don't know. I just thought that they would have done more considering that their rotation, like it's not bad, but I mean, like, do you want Shota Imanaga starting game one of a playoff series as good as he's been? I don't know if I would. And then, not that they're gonna have 4 to 5 starters consistently in the playoffs, but I mean, like Shota Imanaga, Jameson Tyone, Colin Ray just throwing some innings too for them. Like it's and with I think Justin Steele and Tommy John in like April or whatever. So knowing that he's out for the year two and he would be their number one starter, why not get a guy like I don't know, Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera from the Marlins as well. Those two guys down in Miami had been pretty linked to the Cubs or at least there had been like rumors, that they might try to trade for one of those guys. I know Alcantara's not had the greatest year, but he's certainly got a lot of talent. And I feel like just adding anyone would have helped them. I mean, even like Adrian Hauser from the White Sox, as good as he's been, just someone to kind of not necessarily eat innings, but someone who can just provide some more depth for them. Like I don't like they're throwing out Ben Brown like every fifth day, and he's not very good. At least he's not good as a starter. So I don't know why they didn't want to like truly get another legitimate starter. Like it didn't have to be like a frontline ace guy. It would have been nice if that had been the route that they had chose to take, but like they didn't even get anyone. I mean, I don't I don't I don't really know. It's like they just upgraded on the margins in the smallest way possible. Like I mean, could they make the NLCS or could they make the World Series with this current roster? Sure. Like I guess it's theoretically possible, but I don't really know how much good it's really gonna do for them. Like I know Kittredge pitched or he made his debut yesterday out of the bullpen and looked good. I mean, I think he threw a 1, 2, 3 inning, but I mean it's like they added guys that can improve their floor, but not really their ceiling. But the ceiling is really like where you need to aim for, right? I mean, I think Hoyer may have made a comment. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think he may have made a comment after the deadline about how like they want to be good every year. I mean, yeah, that should be the expectation, but you should want to win the World Series every year. Like, is that not the goal? I mean, why not add players who can help you win the World Series instead of just being good? Because the team's already good. Like I don't like if you just want to be good, then you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to add these four players that you added in Castro, Rogers, Kittredge, and Soroka because they're not going to help you win a World Series. Like they might help you, win a playoff game or two in the first round, but the Cubs were already going to go to the playoffs. I mean, I don't whether or not they won the Central or not, or were like the first wild card team because I know them and Milwaukee have been pretty tight knit over the last like month too, with Milwaukee really catching up to them. And I think they overtook them as of now, but it's probably going to be pretty like neck and neck for the next 7 weeks or so until the end of the season in September, and then when the playoffs start. So like I don't get their process with this. Like sure they add players that maybe are upgrades over the ones that they had now on the margins, but like it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, you know, like if you're gonna upgrade and make moves at the deadline, you should make actual moves that are gonna help you, not just like kind of be like nice reinforcements. You know what I mean? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. I'm not in those rooms. I'm not the ones making those phone calls or deals at all, but I feel like the Cubs could have and should have done more compared to, what the White Sox deadline strategy was, for example. Because it's different when you're not a very good team and you're just kind of shipping off guys for whatever you can get versus being a team that's kind of in the prime of its season, having players, elite players in the prime of their careers right now that may not come back next year. Like you need to maximize that, right? And this feels like they kind of half, you know what it is. I don't like to swear on this, but half-assed it. Like that's what it kind of feels like. They could have and should have done more. Like they've certainly got prospects in their minor league system. Like I don't know if they just want to hold on to all those prospects and have them plug holes at the big league level, but at the same time, you can't have seven outfielders on a team. You can't have seven infielders. You can't have 10 starting pitchers, right? You At some point you're gonna have to trade some of these younger players who might not have a current path to a role on the team for guys that can help you now. Like, when like back in 2016 they traded Gleyber Torres, who was like arguably their top prospect for Chapman. Well, Chapman helped them win a World Series, and it's not like Torres is a bad player. I mean, he's been fine. He's played for the Yankees and the Tigers now this year. But like, would the Cubs do that trade again? 100%. Getting a frontline legitimate closer at the time, arguably the best closer in baseball in 2016 for your top prospect, who's again just a prospect at the time. You don't know how these guys are going to pan out, whether good, bad, indifferent. You don't know. So those are my thoughts. I thought they should have done more. I thought they would have done more, but that's the deadline. It's over. Whether or not um, you know prices were high or low, not sufficient. It is what it is. So that's the business of baseball. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Just my uh, trade deadline thoughts. Um, Happy Saturday. Hope you all have a nice rest of your week or weekend and week going into next week. It was nice to finally be back on Zoom for a while. Like I said, my internet connection was bad the last couple interviews I did. So I wasn't able to upload the video because it's very bad. But like I said, I restarted my computer today, so this Zoom seems to have gone pretty well. So looks like it's back in business, I guess. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back with another episode next week. I'm gonna hope it's an interview. I don't know if I can get that scheduled in time. If not, probably by the week after at least. So, um, yeah, I will be back next week. I guess I don't know in what kind of format or what I'm gonna do yet, but I will figure that out in the coming days. And yeah, I will talk to you guys sometime next week. Um, Thanks for listening again or watching, and take care.